history, comedy, sonnets, but I've not mentioned what became my major work after 1600, tragedy. Tragedy, of course, is a noble and long-standing form of theater, going back through the Romans, even to the Greeks. As a young lad in my Latin studies, I'd certainly spent time with Seneca. One of my first tragedies is called Titus Andronicus, which was, again, an adaptation of a Senecan tragedy, much like I had early on adapted Plautus's Menachemi. You can learn from those models. Yet it was when I began on and discover my own voice and my own themes that I became aware of what I could do in theater, what I could explore, those grave and serious issues that history or comedy might not give us pause to do. And so I looked at the clash of families in class, in the earliest of those tragedies, Romeo and Juliet. I moved on soon to take on other themes. Most recently, of course, as my company moved in 1603 from being called the Lord Chamberlain's Men, when Queen Elizabeth was our royal patron, to becoming the King's Men, now that Jesus is our royal patron. I wanted to catch his attention and honor him in some way. And initially I did it with a comedy, Measure for Measure, which dealt with a mysterious duke who came to set things right in the kingdom. My tip of the hat dramatically and comedically to the new king of our kingdom. But it was tragedy that I wrote right after the severe upset of the gunpowder plot. Perhaps you are aware of that, when there was a rebellion, a secret plot using gunpowder that had been placed in barrels and placed under the Parliament, that was to be ignited by some Catholic conspirators and bring down the kingdom, the Parliament, and the monarchy. King James, as he reports it, in a vision, understood about this plot and sent his men, and they uncovered the chief henchman, Guy Fawkes, and through him and his questioning, stopped the conspiracy and prevented the demise of the kingdom in this huge explosion. But for that reason, I wanted to write a play that caught up something in a tragic context, this sense of danger that was so large it could destroy a whole kingdom in a murderous rage. And so I wrote the Scottish play, Macbeth. I'm sure you've all, from time to time, seen it. In most of my tragic works, there is what we learn to do in the theater as a double plot, in which there were forces running awry, both as a major plot and then a subplot that complicated it, giving us extraordinary richness in terms of character. But in this, I wanted it to be driven by the obsession of one usurping character. And I picked the story of Macbeth from ancient Scottish times and produced it. The Scottish king, who was now James I of England, greatly enjoyed it, especially because I knew of his love of witchcraft. He wrote a book about witchcraft himself, quite serious in his scholarship. And so I made sure to include lots of witchcraft and magic and the darkness that brought into the plotting. But standing at the center was still this usurping couple. I remember one wag commenting that probably Lady Macbeth and MacBeth are two of the most devoted couples married of my work. And that is true, but they were devoted to evil. Let me recall simply one high point in that which for me caught up the mystery of evil and how when one man is captured and makes it his own soul, it not only leads to the vast destruction and turmoil that my play presented, but finally leads to his own personal hell. It's in the fifth act of the play. Macbeth is now surrounded by warring armies, but still believing the witch's promise that he could not be killed by one of woman born, or that until Birnam Wood comes, no army could successfully attack his castle. Both of these twisted prophecies from the witches, of course, will be played out in the next scene, and he will understand that they were just fabricated and fabulous lies. But here he stands and receives the news about his queen. I have almost forgotten the taste of fears. The time has been my senses would have cooled to hear a night's shriek, and my fell of hair would at dismal treatise rouse and stir as life were in it. I have supped full with horrors. Direness, familiar to my slaughterous thoughts, cannot once start me. Wherefore was that cry? Seaton enters and speaks to Macbeth. The queen, my lord, is dead. She should have died hereafter. There would have been a time for such a word. Tomorrow, tomorrow, tomorrow creeps in this petty pace from day to day to the last syllable of recorded time. And all our yesterdays have lighted fools the way to dusty death. Out, out, brief candle, life's but a walking shadow, a poor player that struts and frets his hour upon the stage, then is heard no more. It is a tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing. Comedy, tragedy, history.